Hello there, divergent and typical with or without addiction people watching. Today, I'm going to talk about my flavor of the main symptoms of autism. Welcome to the video. Social and communication skills. I love this one. Uh, just kidding, it's a bummer. When I was a kid, starting from kindergarten through preschool and then primary school, so that's about between the ages of 3 and 11. I was such an antisocial kid. I had no friends whatsoever initially. In kindergarten, I used to play with a toy stove and kitchen utensils, just pretending to cook, and I had no interest in other kids. I did not understand them, and I did not have the need or the capacity to do so. My father took me to my grandparents from his side at the age of 3. And to be honest, they kind of became my actual parents for the next few years until I was 11. My grandma used to be a primary school teacher, so she used to have a way with kids. And she has told me on numerous occasions that she has never ever met such an antisocial kid like I was. So initially, it was hard to wrap her head around that. And she would see me always at home. I would used to draw, and I played with my grandpa, who was behaving very friendly and lovingly and openly towards me. But as I said, my granny had a way with kids. So over the course of a few years, she managed to make me a few friends. The first one was my third cousin, whose grandma and mine are first cousins, and they're also very good friends. So that friendship kind of started with ease. Our grandmas would take us to the city parks, and there we would play anything like sports or just hang out and talk. And we got used to each other, and eventually we became friends. Another kid which I managed to make friends with is the son of a classmate of my dad. So she used to be a literature teacher in high school, and naturally, my grandma being a teacher as well, they were friends, and my grandma liked to hang out with her. So I got to play with her son, and later we also became friends with him. At primary school, it was a bit different though. I was always sitting at the back. I was very shy. I didn't want to communicate with anyone. I was usually drawing in all of the classes, and my primary school teacher kind of liked me, so she let me have my way. And she would also protect me from other kids from the class that used to bully me a lot. Eventually, in second grade, I made friends with two other boys from the class who were also bullied like me. And the three of us just stuck together. We used to just hang out in the back, and all of us were drawing all the time. There was one kid from my class who wasn't bullying me. He used to hang out with the bullies, but he would never actually act aggressively towards me. And he lived nearby. So my grandma took me by the hand one time, and we went to the park by his flat, and she kind of asked him to be friends with me. So he did. It was kind of him. He was quite understanding as a kid. He got me acquainted with his friends from the flat, and in a few years, I became friends and started going out with, on occasions, with two older guys from the neighborhood. And these were the years that I actually started smoking and drinking. At that time, when I started developing my bad habits, I kind of started going out with older people than me. I was drawn to them, in my opinion, like a defense mechanism in order not to be bullied by people my age. So, I can talk a lot more about my lack of communication skills, but I prefer to leave this for future videos as there are gonna be plenty of occasions when I'm telling my stories. Moving on to the next main symptom, which is hyper or hyposensitivity. In my case, it's hypersensitivity, and I struggle a lot with sounds and with touch. Till this day, certain noises can drive me to meltdown very, very easily. Whenever there is a construction site nearby and it goes on for more than a few hours, I just can't keep it cool. I try all kinds of techniques, but sometimes even they don't work. It's just so much for my nervous system to handle. Except for construction sites, traffic is very disturbing for me, and over the course of 2 decades, I guess, traffic in my city has become worse and worse. And then, last but not least, people who are loud and obnoxious and make a lot of noises to draw attention to them just get me out of control. I can hardly handle them. And here it's time to mention that the stem cell therapy I underwent helped me a little with my noise sensitivity. However, it is still present as a major symptom for me. Touch is my other extremely sensitive domain. I dislike people touching me. It could be friends or family. I just can't take it. It startles me, it surprises me, and I don't like almost anybody's touch. I had to learn how to be physically close to my girlfriend in particular situations. Although I can say she's the person to whose touch I'm most accustomed to. However, if it is sudden, it can still startle me and I can jump from the unexpected feel. Bright light and certain smells irritate me a lot, especially if I'm already overstimulated by sound, for example. Recently, they renovated a lot of streets in my city, and they used to have these orange lights which they changed for very bright white lights. And I used to take walks after dinner just to help me fall asleep, and these very bright lights are getting so much on my nerves. I so much more prefer to take walks in the dark or in the warm orange light from the old lamps. I don't know what engineer is designing those. Uh, I play city building games from time to time, and whenever you draw a neighborhood street, it's always with orange lights, not these bright freaking lights. Then the smells that irritate me the most are from traffic. Exhaust fumes can make me hold my breath and they get my heart pumping. Now that I think about it, my heart starts beating fast, probably because I'm holding my breath. But, anyways, it's just disturbing. It's just poisonous gas for me. My mind can't take it. And lately, with more and more cars on the road, it becomes more of an issue for me. I have had meltdowns caused by lights or smells. However, they are much less frequent compared to noises and touch. And with the sense of taste, I don't really struggle that much. So that's about it for my hypersensitivity symptoms. And now we move on to stimming. God, I used to stim a lot. Over the last 2 years, though, I think I've gotten this very much under control. I used to tap my foot nervously, or both feet. I used to tap my fingers rhythmically in class, and my classmates were getting very annoyed from this. I used to swing my pen or pencil when I was nervous in class, or I was just trying to pay attention, or I was thinking something like this. I would also bite them, so I would always have all of my pens or pencils chewed up very badly from the backside. I sometimes squeeze my chin like this or bite the inside of my cheeks These are stims that are not very visible to others, especially the biting on the cheek ones. And these two stims I do to this day. However, when I realize I'm doing it, I try to stop. And the reason is that because I also have ADHD, that kind of adds too much stimulation. So I want to learn my body to be less stimulated. And over time, it works out. So now it's time to delve into deeper stuff. One of my stims became smoking cigarettes nervously when I was trying to keep my cool in certain situations. I started smoking from the age of 12, and by the time I was 14, I was smoking 2 packs a day. At the age of 11, I drank my first 3 pints of beer. That's 1.5 liters of beer for a kid. My first getting drunk was when I was 12. Then I also started trying all kinds of hard liquor. Then by the time I was 13, I was already drinking weekly and oftentimes per week. And I would get drunk a couple of times a month. And this became my worst self stimulating behavior for a very big chunk of my life. I was comforted and felt more relaxed by always having a drink in my hand in social situations. So, whenever an uncomfortable topic comes up, I would just sip a drink, or somebody would ask me an uncomfortable question. I would just sip a drink, and that was it. It became a habit. Sadly, smoking and drinking was just the beginning of it. It later developed into me taking more and more drugs to satiate the need to feel calm in various social situations or fit in with a group. I had no real idea what I was getting myself into, and my parents had neither the knowledge that I was taking any other substances except for alcohol and cigarettes and later weed, nor the capacity to do anything about it. I was so out of control. I was already addicted, but I had no real comprehension about the situation I'm in. I'm going to go into so much detail in these topics in the very near future. It is one of the main pillars of my channel and the essence of what I want to do with it. That is, help people overcome their addictions and bad habits. So, moving on to the next one, which is having a routine and being keen on sameness. And this symptom I express big time. I'm so thrown off balance when there is even a slight change in my schedule. After hypersensitivity to sound and touch, this is my next main trigger for meltdowns. It could be just a single tiny thing from my schedule for the day that gets messed up and it makes me just explode like a nuclear reactor. However, lately I have found some ways to handle this in a more preserving manner. I'm going to share advice and tips on how to do this in future videos. So, last but not least, my favorite symptom, the symptom I adore. This is special interests. I love my special interests, although I realized I kind of talk about them too much or all the time to my family and friends. This is one of the main reasons I started this channel, so I can talk to you guys instead of blasting their heads with information they have heard dozens of times. Also, information that they don't really have any interest in and they just listen to me from pity or because they don't have any other option. Because sometimes that's really the only thing I talk about. For example, back when I was a kid, I was overtaken by Titanic. I drew the ship. I had a lot of drawings of the ship, like probably 20 or more. I searched information about it. I watched every single documentary that came out on the disaster. I replayed scenes from the sinking, from the movies, or from documentaries. And of course, I would talk and talk about it to my family, almost making their heads explode. Actually, this is a recent story. So, we were at a small family gathering, so my grandmas were there, and my family, and me and my girlfriend. And I played on YouTube, on the big screen, on the TV, Titanic real time sinking. That's like almost 3 hours. Can you imagine? And I would talk constantly, just explaining what happened. And at one point, my father was, when is this gonna end? And I looked at the time and it was about 1 hour, 10, 15 minutes. And I was just like, Dad, they're just gonna start boarding the boats. He just did like this. Later, as I grew up, I developed an interest for the cosmos and for physics. I was also physics profile in high school. I would watch every documentary that came out on astronomy, cosmology, or quantum physics. Afterwards, I became obsessed with aliens and ancient civilizations. Then, as I started exploring the depths of addiction, I also developed a special interest for pharmacology and psychology. And some of my latest interests stemming from overcoming my addictions are living healthy, mindfully, and developing good habits. I also slowly but surely developed a deep interest for spirituality. And I'm going to talk about it and the latter few, including pharmacology and psychology, a lot in later videos. I thank you if you stayed with me until the end, and I hope you enjoyed the video. In the next one, I'm going to go over the minor symptoms of autism as seen from my own personal experience. Thank you for your attention, guys, and peace be with you.